Hi, my name's Sydney, and today I'm going to be talking about some movies I watched lately. I got HBO Max recently, so I've been watching a ton of movies on there. Not a lot of horror yet, but I watched Ready or Not, which came out in 2019. It's directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin. God, I'm super botching that. I'm actually not familiar with this person. They're going to be involved in Scream 5. I've never seen VHS, even though I'm highly aware of it. And it was also directed by Tyler Gillett, who it looks like they're a duo, like they do a lot together. Like he's also going to be involved in Scream 5 and did VHS and Southbound and Devil's Due. They've done some movies together, but Ready or Not, what a great movie. It's starring Samara Weaving, Adam Brody, Andie MacDowell, just like really great casting. That's honestly what initially intrigued me when I saw the trailer, but also just the concept is very fun. It's a very fun horror movie. I guess, yeah, it's horror.
So at midnight, you have to play a game.
Hide and seek? Are we really gonna play that? So there's no way for me to win, right?
I mean, stay hidden till dawn.
No, thank you.
Good luck.
It was really delightfully humorous pretty consistently. It wasn't incredibly predictable. Some things were as far as following the tropes of a horror film, but I would say overall it did kind of leave me guessing what was going to happen in the end and how this entire story was going to come to a close. But it really had me rooting for the lead and Samara Weaving's character Grace. It really does play on that idea of classism kind of, which has been a theme in a lot of movies of the past, well, of forever. I read in a review cartoonish version of a family living in luxury looks like, very much. There was nothing that deceiving or I feel like I've been watching a lot of movies lately, which, speaking of the next movie I'll get to, where the ending leaves ambiguity, where you feel like you want to Google a bunch of stuff after to see what the intention of the film was or what was the true meaning of the last scene of the movie. But this is not that kind of movie. This is just a fun ride all the way along. You are laughing. It really is pretty good at building tension throughout the film. I just had a good old time watching it. There's a little bit of gore, but nothing crazy. So if you're into dark comedies, black comedies, then I would say definitely check out Ready or Not. It's awesome. I'm actually really curious now to see how these directors, what they contribute to this Scream franchise. Also, Ryan Murphy was one of the screenplay writers for this, which if you love American Horror Story, then yeah, it's great. This movie also was only an hour and a half. It's 1 hour and 34 minutes. It's really short, really to the point. I think this movie, for the place that I'm in the world right now, just felt like everything that I needed in this moment. It was just fun, thrilling, tension building with that release, not a slow burn. The movie gets right to the point, dives right into the action of it. I don't have a ton more to say about it. I just highly recommend it. I think I will definitely watch it again. Also, I haven't seen Andie MacDowell in anything recently. I really liked her. I have this, like many people, kind of nostalgia attached to her with 80s movies like Groundhog Day and the one where Michael Keaton keeps duplicating himself.
Doug. My Peppy.
Whatever, that one. And St. Elmos Fire and just that hair and yeah, so to see her in something a bit more modern with a little bit more edge to it was really fun. Let's dive into the meat of the bones. The House That Jack Built. So this 2018 disturbing horror film by Lars von Trier is very divisive. People seem to either really love this movie or really hate it. I don't know where I lie. Whenever it comes to disturbing movies, which are a whole other subgenre of horror, I tend to be very piqued in interest and am very lured into watching these movies, and then am very analytical on whether it was necessary for its existence, I guess. I think a lot of people who are into like true crime and in these disturbing movies, there is a sort of fascination with the disturbing, and there's also sort of I don't know if I want to call it therapeutic, but there is sort of this enlightenment that happens when you're bringing light to these really horrible things, and they almost in a way become less frightening once you just understand them, if that makes any sense. In point in case, the house that Jack built follows 5 different murder events of a serial killer that take place over a 12-year period. And kind of like other serial killers in real life where I've seen little bits and pieces or learned about them, his character, for me, there's one of those big beetles outside. I just felt kind of irritated the whole movie because this film is truly through his perspective, I would say fully. So whenever you're seeing women on screen or essentially anyone else that's not him, appears to be very dumb, and the women are portrayed as very stereotyped dumb. They're just dumb. This is truly the perspective of how Jack is portraying these women. He is misogynistic, so I think that's important to understand when watching the film. Is it's truly from his viewpoint, and he thinks women are dumb. I think to break that point of view, we are introduced to the character Verge, who is kind of this subconscious character who he's having a conversation with throughout the film, and he questions those perspectives. So here's my thought. I won't watch interviews with serial killers, where particularly Ted Bundy or Jeffrey Dahmer, but even more so with a Ted Bundy. Shut up, Ted! They are so proud and think they are so above everyone else that it's almost in the same way when you see these crazy mass shootings and then their pictures plastered everywhere on the news. And that's what they want. That is satisfying their needs and urges to be seen and known. And it's just gross, you know? So when watching 2.5 hours of this character essentially pride himself on his art and his work that is so horrific to everyone else, and he's seeing it as his art, it's just like, shut up, dude, shut up. Like, that's why I won't watch the Ted Bundy interviews. It's like, shut up, Ted! I would much rather hear victims or victims' families speak out, because you're gonna get to the gut of what's important to me, what feels valued as having a voice. I believe that, yes, these monsters should be heard to an extent so that we can learn from that behavior. But as far as like giving them a platform, it's just gross to me. So you're like,
why do you like horror films then?
Well, I think a lot of horror can do great justice in showing both sides of that. Or sometimes they can even put us on the side of the killer, rooting for them, depending on the film. But for the house that Jack built, I just felt like, dude, shut up. Shut up, Ted! The visuals in this movie are very disturbing, for sure. There's particularly, am I gonna spoil it? Do I spoil it? I've seen some other reviews on YouTube and people seem to like avoid talking about this, but you know what? I'm just gonna do it. It's not spoiling anything plot-wise, so let's just talk about it. There is a point where he kind of brings it back into a flashback of him as a child, and he takes a cute little duck and he cuts the leg off. Horrible. Horrific. Looks very real too. Obviously it's not. Very disturbing imagery though, to see a kid doing that. Also, there is child violence in this, which is always of course upsetting. The imagery definitely has stuck with me. But yeah, this is kind of a movie, I don't know, I feel very torn about whether or not this was a good movie. At Cannes Film Festival, notoriously, if you haven't heard yet, a bunch of people walked out, booed, said it was horrible, grotesque, blah, blah, blah. Another group of people gave it a 10-minute standing ovation. So yeah, I think that's kind of impressive as a filmmaker to be able to do that. If I can remove myself from the imagery that I'm seeing and the content in a realistic form and just see it as someone who created this film, it's kind of awesome. I think the thing where it gets really touchy is Lars von Trier has been quoted saying that this is the character, Jack, that he's identified the most with, which is very unsettling to hear. But the character Jack has OCD, which I guess is Lars von Trier has, but he's just narcissistic. And that plays into the movie in that there's a moment where they're talking about icons and people that inspire with their great works or whatever. And there's a bunch of flashes of clips of Lars von Trier's work. That's weird. At first I was kind of like,
Oh wow, that's interesting.
but then I'm like,
Wait, are you calling yourself an icon? Wait, but are you? But if you're self-aware of that and claiming it, is that weird?
it kind of read as very pretentious, and honestly it took me out of the movie a lot. What piqued my interest in watching this movie in the first place though was Matt Dillon. Great acting in this movie. I think he did a really wonderful job. He was very believable. I really think of him as Something About Mary. That I grew up watching that movie, so when I think of Matt Dillon, that's what I think of. He really killed this role. I think he did really good. Uma Thurman, she's in the trailer. That also piqued my interest. She's in like the first little tiny bit of the movie. She didn't really have a huge role, but she also killed it. I love seeing her in pretty much anything.
You might as well be a serial killer.
Also, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Siobhan Fallon Hogan. Awesome. She is in so many different roles, like Men in Black. Like, she just pops up everywhere.
Hey, your skin is hanging off your bones.
Yeah, she's in Forrest Gump. She's the bus driver.
Are you coming along?
She's in Holes. Like, this chick's just like in everything. So to see her just pop up unexpectedly in this movie was really exciting for me. Unfortunately, I think her bit was the most entertaining part of the movie for me. And that's the other thing where I have a lot more to say about this movie than Ready or Not, because it's just a lot more meaty. But here's how they compare. Ready or Not is a very clearly face value black comedy. Dark comedy. Humorous, funny, adventurous, horror. The House That Jack Built has also been labeled as black comedy. I think I have a really hard time sometimes recognizing the humor in black comedy when it's not so obvious, I guess. The only moment that stood out for me was when the character Jack kills a woman, cleans up the crime scene, gets back in his car, and he keeps having these visuals of blood being under the carpet, blood being under a lamp, and his OCD really takes over. He goes back in the house, back to the car, back to the house. He just has this compulsion to keep cleaning. And the way it's presented, it's very funny, it's humorous. Was I like laughing out loud? No, but I was really entertained and engaged in that moment. There are other very much more disturbing moments in the movie that I've seen other people say like,
This movie was hilarious. I was cracking up.
and I'm like, what the hell are you? Are you for real? Like, I get that it's playing on certain stereotypes of serial killers, but I personally had a hard time recognizing the humor in that. Yeah. Just watch it if you want to, I guess. There's nothing that really makes me say anyone has to watch this movie. I don't know. So those are two movies I watched recently. I'll definitely watch Ready or Not again. Great fun. The House That Jack Built, I'm still torn. That's about it. Please let me know if you've seen either of these movies. Let me know what you thought of them both, because they're very, very different films. Very different. Ready or Not is streaming on HBO Max. I know that's a little bit more limited for some people. And then The House That Jack Built is actually streaming on Hulu. So watch Ready or Not, The House That Jack Built. Good luck.